The space around the Kepler 442 system was quiet and dark. Stars dotted the black sky like tiny diamonds. Captain Dongmin stood on the bridge of his ship, the UHSV Incheon's Pride, watching the peaceful view. He had been traveling through space for 3 months now, studying new planets and taking notes about what he found. Dongmin was a tall man with kind eyes and short black hair. He wore the blue uniform of the United Human Space Navy, but his ship was not built for fighting. The Incheon's Pride was a research vessel. It carried tools for studying rocks, plants, and air from different worlds. The ship was small compared to most human vessels, about the size of a city building. "Captain," said Lieutenant Bo Ram from her station. She was a young woman with bright eyes who handled the ship's defense systems. "I'm getting something strange on my sensors." Dongmin walked over to look at her screen. "What do you see?" "Multiple A. Contacts, sir. Very large ships. They're coming toward us fast." Bo Ram's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "I count 42 vessels. Each one is much bigger than us." The captain felt a cold worry in his stomach. "How big?" "Each ship is about 10 times our size, sir. They look like warships." "Communication." Officer Taeho turned around in his chair. He was a smart man who spoke many languages. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission. It's not in any human language I know." "Put it through the translator," Dongmin said. The ship's computer worked to understand the alien words. After a few seconds, a rough voice filled the bridge. The translation was choppy but clear enough. "Small vessel. You will stop your engines. Now. You will prepare to be boarded. Your species will submit to the Vorthak hegemony or face complete destruction." The bridge became very quiet. Chief Engineer Yu Jin, a woman who knew everything about the ship's systems, looked up from her station. "Captain, should I prepare the engines for a fast escape?" Dongmin studied the tactical display. The alien ships had surrounded them in a perfect circle. There was no way to run. "How long until they reach us?" 20 minutes at their current. "Speed," said Navigator Hyun-woo. He was calm as always, even in danger. "Sir," Weapons Officer So Young spoke up. She was responsible for the ship's few defensive tools. "Our main plasma array is ready, but against 42 ships..." "I know," Dongmin said quietly. He had never expected to meet hostile aliens. Humans had been exploring space for 200 years and had never found another intelligent species. "Taeho, can you open a channel to their leader?" "Yes, sir. Channel open." Dongmin straightened his uniform and spoke clearly. "This is Captain Dongmin of the human vessel Incheon's Pride. We come in peace. We are explorers, not soldiers." The alien voice came back quickly. "Peace is not an option. The Vorthak hegemony has conquered 17 species. Your humans will become the 18th. You will serve us or die." Boram whispered, "Captain, they've conquered 17 civilizations?" Dongmin nodded grimly. These aliens were clearly dangerous. "What do they want from us?" The alien voice continued. "Your species will work in our mines and factories. Your worlds will provide resources for the hegemony. Resistance is useless. We have destroyed entire planets that refuse to obey." Yujin checked her instruments. "Sir, all our systems are working perfectly. The fusion reactor is stable. All weapons are online." "Weapons?" So Young looked confused. "Sir, we only have the plasma research array and some basic defense systems." "Sometimes that's enough," Dongmin said. He had spent 5 years in the Space Navy before becoming a research captain. He remembered his training. Hyun-woo studied his navigation charts. "Captain, there are 17 systems marked as dead on our star maps. No radio signals, no signs of life. I think we know what happened to them now." The alien commander spoke again. "You have 10 minutes to decide. Surrender or be destroyed. Your small ship cannot fight our mighty fleet." Dongmin looked at his crew. Boram was young but brave. Tai-ho was brilliant with languages and computers. Yu-jin could fix anything. Hyun-woo never got lost. no matter how far from home they traveled. So Young was quiet but determined. "What do you think?" he asked them. "Sir," Bo-Ram said firmly, "we can't let them enslave humanity." "The plasma array wasn't designed as a weapon," So Young said, "but it might work as one." Yujin nodded. "Our gravitational field generator could help defend us. It's not a shield, but it might confuse their targeting systems." Taeho was already working on his computer. "I'm studying their language patterns. If we need to talk to them again, I'll be ready." Hyunwoo plotted courses on his screen. "Even if we can't escape, we can make them work for their victory." Dongmin felt proud of his crew. They were scared, but they were ready to fight for their people. "Taeho, open the channel again." "Channel open, sir." Dongmin took a deep breath. "This is Captain Dongmin. We appreciate your offer, but we'll have to decline. However, we're prepared to accept your surrender if you wish to avoid unnecessary casualties." For a moment, there was silence. Then the bridge filled with what sounded like alien laughter. "You think your tiny ship can fight our entire fleet?" the alien commander said. "You humans are more foolish than the others. We will enjoy breaking your spirit." "Sir," Bo-Ram said, "they're moving into attack formation." Dongmin sat down in his captain's chair. "All stations prepare for combat. Yujin, bring all systems to full power. So Young, charge the plasma array. Bo-Ram, activate all defensive measures." "Yes, sir," his crew replied together. The Inchin's pride might be small, but it carried the hopes of all humanity. Dongmin would not let his species become slaves. The aliens had destroyed 17 civilizations, but they had never faced humans before. "Let's show them what we're made of," he said quietly. The stars watched silently as the small human ship prepared to face impossible odds. In the distance, 42 alien warships moved closer, ready to add another victory to their long list of conquests. But this time, things would be different. This time, they faced humanity. Admiral Crixtel stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Dominion Spear. He was 8 feet tall with gray skin and 4 arms. His species, the Vorthak, had ruled space for 300 years. They had never lost a battle. "These humans are brave but stupid," he said to his second-in-command. "Send 3 destroyers forward. Show them our power." The 3 Vorthak warships moved toward the small human vessel. Each destroyer was massive, covered in armor and weapons. Their plasma lances could cut through planets. The humans would see this display and surrender quickly, just like all the others. On the Inchan's Pride, Captain Dongmin watched the enemy ships approach. "Bo-Ram, what are those weapons they're charging?" "Plasma lances, sir. Very powerful. Each shot could destroy a city." Bo-Ram's hands moved over her controls. "They're not trying to capture us anymore. They want to scare us." "Will it work?" Taeho asked. Dongmin smiled grimly. "Yujin, activate Protocol 7. The chief engineer's eyes went wide. "Sir, are you sure? We've never tested it in real combat." "There's a first time for everything." Yujin's fingers flew over her console. Deep inside the ship, systems that had been sleeping came to life. The Incheon's Pride began to change. Panels on the hull slid open, revealing hidden equipment. The ship's smooth surface became complex and dangerous looking. "What is Protocol 7? So Young asked. "Emergency combat configuration," Dongmin explained. "Every human research ship has it. We hope we never need it, but..." The ship's energy signature suddenly spiked. Hyunwoo looked at his instruments in amazement. "Sir, our power output just increased by 400%. The fusion reactor is running at maximum," Yujin reported. "All hidden systems are online." On the Vorthak destroyers, alien officers stared at their screens in confusion. The small human ship was changing. It looked completely different now. Where had all those weapons come from? "Fire a warning shot," Admiral Crixtel ordered. Let them see what happens to those who resist us. The three destroyers fired their plasma lances. Brilliant beams of energy raced toward the Incheon's pride. Each beam carried enough power to melt a mountain. Incoming plasma fire, Boram announced. Multiple contacts. Don't try to run away, Dongmin said calmly. Run toward them. Sir? Hyunwoo looked confused. You heard me. Full speed ahead. Right at those plasma beams. The Incheon's pride accelerated directly toward the incoming fire. On the Vorthak ships, officers shouted in confusion. No one had ever flown toward their weapons before. Point defense system ready, So Young reported. She had never used it in combat, but she knew how it worked. Fire, Dongmin ordered. Hundreds of tiny projectiles shot out from the human ship. They were smaller than bullets, moving faster than anything the Vorthak had ever seen. The micro-projectiles hit the plasma beams, and something impossible happened. The energy beams fell apart. The plasma scattered into harmless light. The Vorthak weapons, which had destroyed planets, simply disappeared. How? Admiral Crixtel stared at his tactical display. How did they stop our plasma lances? His weapons officer was just as confused. I don't know, sir. Our beams were destroyed by tiny metal pieces. It should be impossible. Maybe their technology is more advanced than we thought, said the tactical advisor. Before the Vorthak could understand what had happened, So Young fired back. The Incheon's Pride's main plasma array locked onto the lead destroyer. It was meant for mining asteroids, not fighting, but Yujin had made some quick changes. The human plasma beam was different from Vorthak weapons. It was focused and precise, like a surgeon's knife. It cut through the destroyer's shields as if they weren't there. The beam sliced through the hull, through the armor, through everything. The destroyer called Skarath's Fang broke apart in a brilliant explosion. Pieces of the massive warship scattered through space. In seconds, a ship that had conquered worlds was nothing but debris. The Vorthak fleet fell silent. On every ship, officers stared at their screens. The humans had just destroyed one of their strongest vessels with a single shot. Impossible, Admiral Crixtel whispered. Our destroyers are invincible. We've conquered 17 species with those ships. Sir, his communication officer said nervously. The humans are sending a message. Captain Dongmin's voice came through the speakers. It was calm and friendly, like he was talking to old friends. That was a warning shot. We're still prepared to discuss terms. Admiral Crixtel felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. In 300 years of conquest, no enemy had ever made him afraid. The Vorthak were the strongest species in the galaxy. They had the biggest ships, the most powerful weapons, the largest armies. But the humans had just made one of their destroyers disappear with what they called a warning shot. Sir, his tactical officer said quietly, maybe we should reconsider our approach. No! Admiral Crixtel slammed his fist on his command console. We are Vorthak. We do not retreat from a single enemy ship. All vessels form an encirclement pattern. We will attack from every direction at once. On the Incheon's Pride, Hyunwoo watched the alien ships move into position. Captain, they're surrounding us. All 41 remaining ships. They're going to attack from all sides, Boram added. Even our defense system can't handle that much firepower. Dongmin studied the tactical display. The Vorthak were forming a perfect sphere around his ship. When they fired, there would be nowhere to run. Yujin, how are our special systems holding up? Better than expected, sir. The gravitational field generator is working perfectly. The quantum processors are handling all the calculations we need. Quantum processors? Taeho looked confused. For our defense system, Dongmin explained, we need to calculate the path of every incoming shot in real time. Normal computers aren't fast enough, so Young checked her weapons. Sir, we only have one main plasma array. We can't shoot at 41 ships at the same time. We don't need to destroy them all, Dongmin said. We just need to survive long enough to show them something." "Show them what?" Dongmin smiled. "That they picked the wrong species to threaten." The Vorthak fleet finished moving into position. 41 massive warships surrounded the small human vessel. On every ship, weapons powered up. Plasma lances, particle beams, kinetic cannons, and missile launchers all pointed at the Inchen's pride. Admiral Crixtel opened a final communication channel. "Humans, you have fought well, but this is the end. No ship can survive what we are about to do. Captain." Dongmin's reply was simple. "We'll see about that." The Vorthak fleet fired everything they had. The space around the Inchen's pride filled with deadly energy. Enough firepower to destroy a moon converged on the small human ship. And then something wonderful and terrible happened. The attacks never reached their target. The space around the Inchen's pride became a storm of deadly energy. Hundreds of plasma beams, missiles, and energy bolts raced toward the small human ship from every direction. It was enough firepower to destroy an entire city. Admiral Crixtel watched from his flagship, certain that the annoying humans would finally be destroyed. No ship could survive such an attack. The Vorthak had used this same strategy to crush the last defenders of 16 different worlds. But something strange began to happen. The deadly projectiles started to curve. Instead of flying straight at the human ship, they bent around it like water flowing around a rock. Some energy beams looped in complete circles. Others shot off into empty space. A few even turned around and headed back toward the Vorthak ships that had fired them. "What is happening?" Admiral Crixtel shouted at his officers. "I don't know, sir," his weapons officer replied, staring at the tactical display in shock. "Our shots are missing the target, but not because they moved. The weapons are changing. Direction by themselves." On the Inchen's pride, Boram monitored the gravitational field generator. "System is working perfectly, Captain. All incoming fire is being deflected." "How does it work?" Taeho asked, amazed at what he was seeing on the screen. Yujin smiled as she watched her instruments. "We're bending space itself around the ship. The aliens' weapons think they're flying straight, but space is curved. It's like trying to walk in a straight line on a round planet." "That's impossible," So-Young said. "Not impossible," Dongmin corrected. "Just very advanced. Humans have been studying gravity for 300 years. Hyunwoo plotted the paths of the deflected weapons." "Captain, some of their own shots are heading back at them." "Let them learn from their own firepower," Dongmin said. 3 Vorthak. Ships were hit by their own reflected weapons. The vessel's shields flared and sparked as their own plasma beams struck them. The aliens had built their ships to attack others, not to defend against their own weapons. "This is not possible, Admiral." Crixtel's voice filled with panic. "No species has this technology!" "Sir," his tactical advisor said quietly, "maybe we should reconsider our approach. These humans are clearly more advanced than we thought." "Never. Continue firing. All ships, maximum power." The Vorthak fleet fired again and again. Each time, their weapons bent around the human ship like light bending around a star. The Inchen's pride sat in the middle of the storm, completely untouched. "They're wasting their energy," Boram observed. "At this rate, their ships will run out of power soon." So-Young studied her targeting system. "Captain, should I return fire?" "Not yet. Let them see how useless their attacks are first." Dongmin wanted the aliens to understand that they couldn't win through force, but the Vorthak didn't give up easily. They had conquered 17 civilizations by never backing down. Admiral Crixtel ordered his ships to move closer, hoping that shorter range would somehow help. "They're approaching to point-blank range," Hyunwoo reported. "Good," Dongmin said. "So-Young, target their weapons systems. Don't destroy the ships, just disable them." "Yes, sir." The Inchen's Pride had been designed to study asteroids and planets. Its plasma array could cut rock samples with incredible precision. Now So Young used that same precision for a different purpose. She fired at the nearest Vorthak cruiser. The beam was so focused that it cut through the ship's weapon systems without damaging anything else. The alien vessel suddenly found itself without any way to fight. "What happened to the merciless Talon?" Admiral Crixtell demanded. "Their weapons have been surgically removed, sir. The human beam cut them away from the hull but left the rest of the ship intact." So Young fired again, and again. Each shot was perfectly aimed. She removed weapons from Vorthak ships like a doctor removing tumors. The alien vessels remained alive and functional, but completely helpless. "How are they doing this?" Sub-Commander Veltar asked. He was Admiral Crixtell's second-in-command, and he had never seen anything like this. "Their beam control is impossible," the weapons officer replied. "They can cut a weapon system away from a ship without damaging the hull around it. Our best computers couldn't calculate shots that precise." Yujin monitored the ship's systems as So Young continued her work. "The quantum processors are handling all the calculations perfectly. We're tracking 41 ships simultaneously and computing individual targeting solutions for each one. In 10 minutes, the entire Vorthak fleet was helpless. 41 massive warships floated in space, their crews alive but their weapons gone. They had been defeated without a single death." Admiral Crixtell stared at his tactical display in complete shock. His mighty fleet, which had conquered entire star systems, had been neutralized by a single small ship. The humans hadn't even tried to destroy them. They had simply taken away their ability to fight. "Sir," his communication officer said in a trembling voice, "what are your orders?" For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Crixtell had no answer. The Vorthak had always won through superior firepower and numbers, but their weapons were useless against human technology, and numbers meant nothing when you couldn't. "Fight, sir?" Sub-Commander Veltar prompted gently. Admiral Crixtell realized that he had only one option left. It was something no Vorthak commander had ever done before, something that went against everything their warrior culture taught. He activated the communication channel to the human ship. His voice, which had always been strong and commanding, now shook with uncertainty. "Unknown humans, we formally request, parley. We have made an error." On the Inchen's Pride, Teho translated the aliens' words. "Captain, their commander wants to talk. He says they made a mistake." Dongmin looked around at his crew. They had done the impossible. They had defeated an entire fleet without killing anyone. "What do you think? Should we talk to them?" "They tried to enslave all of humanity," Boram pointed out. "But now they're helpless," Yujin added. "Maybe they can learn." "Everyone deserves a second chance," Yunwu said quietly. So Young nodded. "We've shown them that violence doesn't work. Maybe now they'll listen to reason." Teho was already working on translation protocols. "I can establish proper communication, sir. I've learned enough of their language." Dongmin made his decision. "Open a channel, but keep our defenses ready." "Channel open, sir." "This is Captain Dongmin. We're willing to talk. But first, I want to know something. Why do you attack other species?" There was a long pause before Admiral Crixtell answered. Because it is what we have always done." "The strong rule the weak. That is the law of the universe." "No," Dongmin said gently. "That's not a law. That's just a choice, and you can choose differently." Admiral Crixtell didn't understand. His species had built their entire civilization on conquest and domination. The idea that there might be another way had never occurred to him. "I request permission to come aboard your vessel," he said finally. "I must see for myself what kind of beings you are." Dongmin looked at his crew. Again, they nodded. "Permission granted, but you come alone and unarmed." "Agreed." As Admiral Crixtell prepared to leave his flagship, he wondered what he would find on the human ship. These creatures had technology beyond anything the Vorthak had ever imagined. They had defeated his entire fleet without firing a single killing shot. What kind of species chose mercy over destruction? What kind of warriors fought to disable rather than kill? He was about to find out. Admiral Crixtel's shuttle docked with the Incheon's Pride. He stepped aboard the human ship with his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Veltar. Both aliens were nervous. They had never been guests on an enemy vessel before. Captain Dongmin met them at the airlock. The Vorthak were surprised by how normal he looked. They had expected humans to be fierce warriors, but Dongmin seemed calm and friendly. "Welcome aboard," Dongmin said through Taeho's translation device. "I hope we can clear up this misunderstanding." Misunderstanding? Admiral Crixtel was confused. "We tried to conquer your species." "Yes, but you didn't know who we were. Now, you do. That changes everything." Dongmin led the aliens through the ship's corridors. Admiral Crixtel expected to see weapons and soldiers everywhere. Instead, he saw laboratories and scientific equipment. The walls were covered with star charts and pictures of planets. "This is a warship?" Sub-Commander Veltar asked. "No," Dongmin replied. "This is a research vessel. We study planets and stars. We map new systems and look for interesting discoveries." "But you have powerful weapons," Admiral Crixtel protested. "We have scientific tools that can be used as weapons if necessary. But that's not what they were built for." They entered the main laboratory. Chief Engineer Yujin was working on a complex machine. She looked up and smiled at the visitors. "This is our quantum matter analyzer," she explained through the translator. "It can break down any substance into its basic atoms and tell us what it's made of." Admiral Crixtel stared at the device. "Your technology can manipulate matter at the atomic level?" "Of course. How else would we study alien rocks and soil samples?" The Vorthak exchanged worried glances. Their own scientists could barely understand atomic structure, let alone manipulate it. Yujin showed them more equipment. "This fusion reactor creates energy by combining hydrogen atoms, just like a star. And this gravitational field generator lets us study black holes and neutron stars safely. The same generator that made our weapons useless," Sub-Commander Veltar realized. "Yes, but we built it to examine gravity, not for defense. We just borrowed it when you attacked us." They moved to the next room, where So Young was calibrating. "The plasma array. This cutting beam can slice a moon-sized asteroid into perfectly equal pieces," she explained. "We use it for mining research." "And for removing our weapons," Admiral Crixtel said quietly. "Only because you left us no choice. We prefer not to fight." The aliens were becoming more confused with each room they visited. Navigation Officer. Hyunwoo showed them star charts with thousands of marked systems. Lieutenant Boram demonstrated computers that could calculate millions of equations per second. Every piece of technology was incredibly advanced, but none of it was designed for war. "I don't understand," Admiral Crixtel said finally. "If you have this technology, why don't you build weapons? Why don't you conquer other species?" Captain Dongmin sat down at a table and invited the aliens to join him. "Let me ask you a question. Why do you conquer others?" "To gain resources, to expand our territory, to prove our strength." "And what do you do with the species you conquer?" "They work in our mines and factories. They produce materials for our empire." Dongmin nodded. "What if I told you there was a better way to get resources?" He activated a wall screen that showed images of human colonies. The Vorthak saw green worlds covered with cities and farms. They saw space stations that sparkled like jewels. They saw massive ships carrying goods between star systems. "We have 12,000 colonies," Dongmin explained. "Each world produces more food and materials than we can use. We've never needed to take anything from anyone else." "How is that possible?" Sub-Commander Veltar asked. Yujin answered. "We don't strip mine planets or force people to work. Instead, we transform dead worlds into living ones. We build rather than destroy. She showed them images of terraforming equipment, machines that could change the atmosphere of a planet, devices that could create oceans where none existed before, technology that could turn a lifeless rock into a garden world. You create planets? Admiral Crixtel's voice was full of wonder. It's easier than you might think, Hyunwoo said. Once you understand how weather and geology work, you can design any kind of world you want. The aliens stared at the images, in amazement. The Vorthak homeworld was harsh and dangerous. They had always believed that planets were either useful or useless, with no way to change them. We could teach you, Dongmin offered. You could turn your conquered systems into garden worlds instead of mining them empty. Why would you help us? Admiral Crixtel asked suspiciously. We are your enemies. Are you? You attacked us because you thought we were weak. Now you know we're not. The question is, what do we do next? Taeho had been studying the Vorthak language during the conversation. Captain, I've been analyzing their speech patterns. I think their aggression comes from desperation, not evil. What do you mean? Their homeworld is running out of resources. They conquer others because they think it's the only way to survive. Dongmin looked at the two aliens with new understanding. Is that true? Are your people struggling to survive? Admiral Crixtel was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. Our world is dying. The soil is poison. The air burns our lungs. We thought conquest was the only way to find new homes for our children. What if we showed you how to heal your world instead? That is possible? Bo-Ram brought up images of human terraforming projects. Planets that had been toxic wastelands, transformed into beautiful worlds full of life. We've done it many times before. It takes patience and knowledge, but any world can be healed. Sub-Commander Veltar was studying the images carefully. These worlds were really poisoned? Worse than poisoned. Some were completely dead. But with the right technology and enough time, life always finds a way. Admiral Crixtel felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope. You would really help us? After we tried to enslave your species? Everyone makes mistakes, Dongmin said simply. The important thing is learning from them. The Vorthak commander looked around the room at all the human technology. These people could have built weapons that would destroy his entire fleet instantly. Instead, they had built tools to create and heal and explore. I have a confession, Admiral Crixtel said quietly. When we first saw your ship, we thought you were primitives. Your vessel looked so small and harmless. And what do you think? Now? I think we are the primitives. We have spent 300 years learning how to destroy. You have spent your time learning how to build. Captain Dongmin smiled. It's not too late to change. Would you like to learn? Admiral Crixtel made a decision that would change the history of his species. Yes, but I cannot make this choice alone. I must return to my people and explain what I have seen. Of course. But Admiral, if you decide to try our way, you'll need to free the species you've conquered. They have the right to choose their own future. The alien commander nodded slowly. It will not be easy. Many of my people believe that strength comes only from conquest. Then show them a different kind of strength, Dongmin suggested. Show them the strength to build instead of destroy. The strength to help instead of hurt. As Admiral Crixtel prepared to return to his ship, he realized that everything he had believed about the universe was wrong. The humans had taught him that there was more than one way to be powerful. Perhaps it was time for the Vorthak to learn a new way to live. 6 months had passed since the meeting between humans and Vorthak. Admiral Dongmin, who had been promoted after his successful first contact, led a small fleet of human ships toward the Vorthak home system. But these were not warships. They carried terraforming equipment, medical supplies, and most importantly, teachers. The Vorthak homeworld, called HFY, was a dark and dangerous place. The sky was always gray with toxic clouds. The ground was covered with factories and military bases. No plants grew anywhere. It was a world built for war, not for life. "It's worse than I expected," said Chief Engineer Yujin as she looked at the planet through the ship's sensors. "Their air has poison levels that would kill a human in minutes," reported Medical Officer Min Ho, who had joined the mission to help with environmental cleanup. Navigation Officer Hyan Wu studied the system, charts. "Look at this. 17 conquered worlds, and every one of them has been strip-mined. They've taken everything useful and left dead rocks behind." Admiral Dongmin felt sad looking at the data. "They were desperate. When your home is dying, you'll do anything to save your people." Communication Officer Tae Ho, now fluent in Vorthak language, received a transmission from the planet. "Sir, Admiral Krixtel is requesting permission to meet with us. He sounds different." "Different how?" "Hopeful, sir. I've never heard that emotion in Vorthak speech before. The human ships were met by a small group of Vorthak vessels, but these ships looked different too. Their weapons had been removed and replaced with scientific equipment. Instead of war paint, they carried symbols of peace. Admiral Krixtel came aboard the flagship with Sub-Commander Veltar and several other officers. The aliens looked tired but determined. "Admiral Dongmin," Krixtel said through the translator, "I have convinced my government to try your way, but there is much resistance among my people." "Change is never easy," Dongmin replied. "What can we do to help?" "Show them that another way is possible. Many Vorthak believe that without conquest, we will simply die." The human fleet descended to HFY. Admiral Dongmin was shocked by what he saw on the surface. Millions of Vorthak lived in underground cities, hiding from their planet's poisoned atmosphere. Children had never seen clean sky or breathed fresh air. "How long has your world been like this?" Yujin asked as they toured the underground facilities. 300 years, Sub-Commander Veltar replied sadly. "We destroyed our environment building weapons for our first conquests. We told ourselves we would find better worlds to live on. But you never did. No, every world we conquered, we strip-mined for resources to build more weapons. We never learned how to heal or create." Yujin studied the environmental data. "The damage is severe but not permanent. We can fix this." The human engineers got to work immediately. They set up atmospheric processors that began filtering the poison from the air. They planted special bacteria that could eat toxic chemicals and turn them into harmless compounds. They built machines that could clean the soil and make it fertile again. The Vorthak watched in amazement as their world slowly began to heal. "It's working," Admiral Krixtel said, staring at the first clear patch of sky his people had seen in centuries. But not all Vorthak were happy with the changes. General Vortak led a group of traditionalists who believed their people should return to conquest. "We are warriors," he declared at a public meeting. "These humans are making us weak." "Are we weak because we're learning to heal our world?" Admiral Krixtel asked. "We are weak because we have stopped fighting. The other species we conquered will rebel when they see our weakness." Admiral Dongmin had an idea. "What if we showed them that they don't need to rebel? What if we gave them their freedom willingly?" "Impossible," General Vortak snorted. "Free slaves always seek revenge." "Let's find out." The humans and reformed Vorthak traveled to the 17 conquered systems. They expected to find angry populations, eager for revenge. Instead, they found something surprising. On the world of Keltha, the enslaved Kelthans had maintained their hope for 300 years. When Admiral Krixtel arrived to announce their freedom, their leader spoke with dignity. "We do not want revenge," Elder Sashka said. "We want to rebuild our world and live in peace." The same thing happened on world after world. The conquered species wanted freedom, not war. They wanted to heal their damaged planets and restore their cultures. I don't understand, General Vortak said after visiting the fifth liberated world. They should hate us. We enslaved them for centuries. Hate is a choice, Elder Sashka explained. We chose hope instead. Yujin worked with scientists from all the liberated species to develop new terraforming techniques. Each world had different challenges, and each species had unique knowledge that could help. The Keltans knew how to grow food in difficult soil. The Marshti were experts at cleaning polluted water. The Fendar could design cities that worked in harmony with nature. Look what we're accomplishing together, Admiral Dongmin said as he watched mixed teams of humans, Vorthak, and other species working side by side. Even General Vortak began to change his mind. I spent my life learning to destroy, he said quietly. These people are teaching me to build. It is harder than war, but more satisfying. Sub-Commander Veltar had become the leader of a joint research station where all the species worked together. We're developing defensive technology, he explained to visiting dignitaries. Shields that can protect planets from asteroids and solar flares. Weapons that can stop invasions without killing anyone. The project's first success was a planetary defense system that could deflect any threat. Natural disasters that had once destroyed civilizations became harmless. As the months passed, the Vorthak homeworld transformed. Green plants began growing for the first time in centuries. Children played outside in clean air. The underground cities were abandoned as people moved to the surface. Admiral Crixtel stood with Admiral Dongmin watching Vorthak children play, with human children in a park that had once been a weapons factory. I have a confession, Crixtel said. When we first met, I thought humans were weak because you didn't try to conquer us. And now I understand that choosing peace when you could choose war, that is the greatest strength of all. The ceremony marking the official alliance between humans and Vorthak was held on Krexhai. Representatives from all the liberated species attended. There were no weapons displays or military parades. Instead, there were art exhibitions, scientific demonstrations, and cultural exchanges. General Vortak, now leading the Planetary Defense Corps, spoke to the assembly. For 300 years, we Vorthak believed that strength came from conquest. The humans taught us that true strength comes from creation. As the celebration continued, Admiral Dongmin received a message that made him smile. The deep space monitoring stations had detected new signals from the far edge of the galaxy. There were more civilizations out there, more species to meet and learn from. The Inchen's pride, now upgraded with technology from all the allied species, prepared for another mission. This time, it wouldn't travel alone. Vorthak ships, redesigned for exploration, would join the journey. Scientists from 17 different worlds would work together to unlock the secrets of the galaxy. Captain Hyun Woo, now commanding his own exploration vessel, opened a communication channel to the fleet. Course laid in for the Galactic Rim. All ships report ready. Admiral Dongmin looked around the bridge of his flagship. Humans worked alongside Vorthak, Kelthans, and members of a dozen other species. They had all chosen cooperation over conflict, creation over destruction. Take us out, he ordered. The mixed fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying a message of hope to whatever civilizations they might find among the stars. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and now they had friends to help explore them. Behind them, on 17 worlds that had once known only slavery and despair, new gardens grew under clean skies. Children of many species played together, learning that differences could be celebrated instead of feared. The Vorthak had asked for a second chance, and they had made the most of it. Now they were ready to offer the same chance to others. The universe was big enough for everyone to find their place among the stars.